because she's a woman?
Well, there's a number of things. First, we have to take into consideration the fact that she is an Italian Catholic woman, so this gives us the insight of how the policy is towards the woman who is a foreigner. This is number one. Again, there is the Christian religion, and he gives her a very diabolic physiognomy. She is just like a devil, and he says it, the old woman and the devil. The next should show
Satan, right?
Like Satan. And there is that pathological misogyny in him towards any maternal figure. Any maternal figure. He doesn't like Alina yet. He has some sexual longing for her. There is a longing for her. He doesn't like her yet. He longs for her. But for the mother, her mother, the Italian Catholic woman here, he is phobic towards her. He has misogynist attitude towards her, and he just hates her because she is a maternal figure.
So there are three reasons: a foreigner, a Catholic, and a maternal. So this makes it worse.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Page 23. The second line, the distance set between them. Now, there are very few misprints, by the way, but I'm just asking you to correct it. And there were named victims in a capital B.
Yes, capital B.
I know, I'm sure you know all that, and there are very, very few misprints. And I thank you for you've done a good proofreading of your work. Page 27. Now, of course, Alexander has such bitter feeling against his mother, and she's an interfering and overprotective woman. Don't you think that anybody, not just a Jew, would not like such a mother? She's very domineering and very interfering, and she doesn't give him a chance to breathe even. I mean, isn't this natural that you would like her?
Well, but...
not being a Jew, I mean being anybody.
Well, my mother cares for me.
Yes, but she's domineering and annoying you all the time.
Church.
No, not...
You care for me as a mother.
They're not the same way, not the same. No, domineering and attacking him and interfering and criticizing and not giving him a chance to live.
Well...
Not all mothers are like that, I hope not.
Well, I'm going to say something here.
All right, what links this to the Jewish concept?
She is a good observant of the Jewish heritage, the Jewish past.
Oh.
She wants him to be the nicest Jewish boy.
That's what I'm arguing. That's right. So she
wants
is after this.
Yes.
One motive only.
She wants him to be an Orthodox Jew. She wants him to be the best Jewish boy in the Jewish community.
The idea of Jewish example. And that's what makes her so much abhorrent to any Constanta. Not just because she is a mother.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, can I add something?
Of course you can.
Well, I read something for Dr. Al-Kahky, and he said that the Jewish people in any community are functional groups. They work as functional groups, and this reminds him of Arab people who go to work in the Gulf countries. Egyptians go to the Gulf countries and they work there. Their families achieve some kind of an inner illumination, and they want to be better than the nationals.
The natives themselves, yes.
So the same thing applies here to Portnoy's complaint and Portnoy's mother. She wants him to be the best Jewish boy.
That makes sense more. This is what makes him so angry and so worried and tense all the time, because he wants to satisfy her, but at the same time it's not in his hand. He can't do all that. Okay. Page 32.
Yes.
Would you please read the last sentence of the last quotation?
Yes.
If it makes.
If it makes for wonder, it makes even more for the uneasiness. And one clinches to the nearest passerby, to brothers, parents, friends, and wives.
Okay. Now this last sentence, doesn't it show a yearning for relationship? A search for a principle, a search for something to cling to?
Well, this line here comes in saw pillows, dangling them. And his first novel here, he is presenting us with a Jewish person who is somewhat influenced by the existentialist philosophy. He is existentialist, and if we are going to speak about existentialism, I have to provide a short definition of existentialism. It is the primacy of existence over essence. And that existence would be an existence for itself, or an existence for a being for itself. I mean, any man or any person can exist as a being for itself or a being in itself. This is what happens here in Dangling. A being for itself, and these are not my ideas, these are Jean-Paul Sartre in his book, Being and Nothingness. He says that a person who is capable of thinking, just like Joseph here, he is a person who thinks of himself as a great philosopher. So he is alienating himself from the environment he exists in. He is alienating him from his communist friends because he wants something more, something better than his communist friends. He wants something more than the natural existence he exists. That's why he exists.
Does he achieve any of these hopes?
He does not achieve any of these hopes, and that's why he makes that shift from a being for itself throughout the novel into a being in itself by choosing to join the army as a member, a passive member.
Again, add something to cling to.
He's a passive.
Trying to do anything.
Passive.
Okay. Page 52, Ahmed.
52.
Now, in your opinion, what are the causes of Neil's failure?
Well, Neil, again, is one of Philadelphia's characters, Jewish male characters, who is suffering from that schizophrenia, his character, his personality, his psychology, between the past and the present, between being a good Jew and achieving societal ascendancy in the American society. In his relation with Brenda, he is seeking that societal ascendancy. He wants to marry her to achieve affluence. Yet, that inquisitive part of him, that blackmailing part of him, makes him ask Brenda to buy a deaf friend, which is something not needed in a relationship between them.
So this is the cause of his failure.
One of the factors.
Yes.
Okay. One of the factors.
Especially in this relationship with the girl that he wanted to reach a high standard with her, but he couldn't.
He couldn't because he held his
because of his own faults.
That's
okay. Page 58.
Yes.
Right after the quotation, being aware of his sexual desires, Asad tries to get rid of his guilty feelings by accusing his anti-Semizer of being morally disgraceful. Now, was he being moral, or was it the complete hatred of females?
We are speaking about Asad here,
yes.
And his relationship with his anti-Semite victimizer and awful Jerry Olby. And Olby is that representational figure of Asad's peers, desires, whether they are positive desires or positive feelings or negative feelings. So he is blaming that alter ego for all the bad things in himself. He longs for Mrs. Nuns, the superintendent's wife. Yet, he, when he finds Olby in his house, in his own house, on his bed, making love to a woman, the first thought that comes to his mind that this is Mrs. Nuns, because this is a scene he wanted to act himself. So he is claiming that non-Jew, just like the Jewish people are doing nowadays. They are blaming the Arabs for everything. They are accusing us of all the bad things. They are the Goy Kadush. They are holy people. They are not.
They are sacred. They never make mistakes.
That's why. So this man is a scapegoat. He's a scapegoat.
Thank you. Now there are many repetitions, as Dr. Laila mentioned, and very few mistakes. I will tell them later. Page 77.
77.
The sentence after the quotation. Will you read it, please?
Indeed.
No, nevertheless.
Nevertheless, Joseph's personality is an extraordinary combination of the heroic and anti-heroic.
Oh, I can explain.
Well, just like the rest of the quotation says about the Droz novel, Rameau's nephew, he was the first one to visualize that dialectic of the hero and anti-hero.
Oh, can you tell me the elements of his heroism and the elements of his anti-heroism?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Joseph is a hero when he actually is not that hero in the real sense, because I want to say something here. The Droz have fictionalized or visualized that clash between the heroic and anti-heroic by showing us two characters in the novel, while this struggle is within Joseph himself. So there is the shift from the external struggle between two characters into an internal struggle in Joseph himself. And this is part of his beguiling routine. So once we see him as the heroic person, he is a person, a humanist man who is thinking of the welfare of the others, of the well-being of the others. Yet at the same time, this very subjective narration of this novel gives us an idea of how this person is an anti-hero.
Yeah.
He is a misanthropic person.
He's a risk actor. He has no criteria.
So the whole idea here comes with that shift from the external struggle in the Droz novel into an internal struggle or inner struggle in Joseph's character. We cannot decide whether he is that good person, like he claims, or he is really a bad person.
Okay. Page 85. Now, let me explain the refusal of Alexander to marry or to have any relationship even with a Jewish girl.
Well, yes, that's why
Why is he discarding even the Jewish people, not just the foreigners?
Well, we are going to speak about Portnoy's complaint and the character of Alexander Portnoy. He achieved that societal ascendancy in the American society, and he is a wonderful and successful person. Yet he cannot please his parents by marrying a Jewish woman, because a very elementary thing in his character is that he is a person all the time seeking for junk sex. He's seeking for things that his mother had always rebuked him out. He is thinking to rebel against the Jewish community, against their norms, against their ideas. And that's why he is using all the non-Jewish women in his life. Actually, he is not making that reasonable relationship with them. He is hating him because of reasonable reasons or not. And there is something else that has to do with his religion, Judaism. So I have an extract here, if you allow me to read it from Deuteronomy from the Old Testament. The Deuteronomy 7, phrases 3 to 4. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take your daughters for your sons, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and will quickly destroy you. So it is something innate. There's psychology and there's religious belief. This is Judaism. And that's why when he have these relationships with non-Jewish women, he is defying.
It's like a spite, out of revenge, out of spite. Not out of
defying all what his mother told him.
He finds more pleasure in that than in having a proper relationship with a Jewish girl or whatever. Okay. Page 104.
Yes.
Can you define what you mean by the Jewish joke?
Well, this is not my own
I know
term.
but can you explain?
It's not my own term. It is actually there's a Freud's term, the Jewish joke, and it is a very interesting book here, jokes and their relation to the unconscious. And in this book, he is dealing with the Jewish people's sarcasm. The Jewish joke here has to do with self-lacerating.
With their psychology, with their inner feelings.
It has to do a lot with self-lacerating, self-punishment. Yes, we are not successful because we are the bad people. We blame ourselves.
And after that, there's somebody else to blame. So
This is the way they joke about themselves. And this is the Jewish joke.
okay, very much. And of course, as we said, chapter 3 and chapter 4 include many repetitions. You could have avoided them by paraphrasing, explaining, putting the idea in other words, giving other examples as much as you can. Because repetitions are not allowed in such abundance. Maybe once or twice out of, forgetfulness, but not all the time. Okay. Now, how has the autobiography helped the writer to clarify the Torah? You have not mentioned in their autobiography, but their own life has influenced their writing. Can you tell me what way?
Well, if you take that self-centeredness as a fictional characteristic in the two American Jewish writers, Soliman and Galal, you will see that they are depending a lot on their own personal lives, presenting us with Jewish male protagonists who look like them, look alike them.
Look and behave.
And behave.
Yes.
Their psychology is the same. And in one of the novels we have Isaac Rosenfeld, and he is a friend of Solfello. He died very young, at the age of 38. And this man was Solfello's neighbor, and they were roommates. Yet Isaac Rosenfeld, as a Jew, writes about himself. His only published novel is Passage from Home. And this novel tells you a lot about the Jewish community's behaviors, the Jewish community's ideas, their sense of alienation, allow me to call it pseudo-alienation because they are not alienated, their sense of being victimized by the majority of the non-Jewish American society. And that's why the autobiographies here are very insightful, because it tells you how these people are refictionalizing themselves, reincarnating themselves in the personalities of their Jewish protagonists.
So as their own life, their surroundings, their environment, all these were poured into the work.
It's very interesting to read a book like this, about Solfello, and to know that his character, the protagonist, Joseph in Langley, who used to eat his lunch in a cafeteria near whom, under suspending tracks of the underground. And very interesting to know that Solfello himself, his wife, asked him to complete his postgraduate studies while she would go and work and support him. The same thing happens in Langley Man with Ivan. And the protagonist has been eating his lunch in a cafeteria. The same cafeteria is visualized in Solfello's.
Yes, that's all right. Now, a general question. What is the Jewish dilemma or conflict, as you perceive it, from the works you have done? What is the real problem?
The real problem here is their sense of being a goy, kabish. Holy people are superior to all nations. They are better than everyone else. And this is their own main dilemma. Again, this self-centeredness, they are egoistic. When they write fiction, just like Soliman, they write about their own experience, their own personal experience. If we take, for example, as a means of comparison, an Arab writer, Nadia and has been in Australia as a novel. We have here Sayyid Ahmed. He is the male character, supposed to be superior than Amina, his wife. Yet, Amina, we listen to Amina. We know the way she thinks. We have her speaking and feeling and reacting. We know she's there. Yes, she's not a bitch.
No,
she's not an object.
As a real character.
She's there. She reacts and
A
acts.
mother, a wife, whatever.
So, by comparison, we have here
The opposite.
very egoistic people and very self-centered.
Page 118, Ahmed.
Yes.
The second line and after the quotation, so will Bellows protagonist. After the first quotation.
Yes, Tolkien's protagonist casts the journalist's eye at his world and the consequent result is depicting all the other characters as his witnesses.
Can I explain?
Well, we take into consideration that we are dealing with the victim, and the victim here presents us with a protagonist as a living tale. A person who is completely paranoid. Actually, the novel itself is a showcase of paranoia. The man here feels that his boss at work is persecuting him because he's a shooter. Once he goes into his brother's house and he sees his sister-in-law and he feels that she is hating him. She feels that her mother is hating him. So the man is very paranoid. And that's why he casts that jaundiced eye, because the fictional construction of the novel here is very subjective. The viewpoint of as a living tale is the only thing we are allowed to hear or listen. And that's why when he tells us that the whole world are anti-Semite nemesis, we have no choice but to believe him.
Because of his own attitude.
That's
Okay. All right. Well, just as a final comment, Ahmed, the thesis is excellent, but what would have made it very a clean work would be just the technical part which you have discovered. I mean, it's all thematic. The technical aspect would have made it richer and more, applicable to the text themselves. But you were so much worried about the theme that you left the technique aside. But usually in any work of art, you have the theme and the tools.
That's right.
Think of the writer.
That's right.
How does he send the idea to you, or how do you receive it from him in autobiography, in narration, in symbols, in indirect, whatever. So the technical part would have made it, and it's already a very good piece of work. But just bear in mind that whenever you deal with a theme, technique goes hand in hand.
That's right.
I don't mean a whole chapter, but even if you had, after every novel, given a few lines or a few pages on the technical method applied, it would make it, more evident. But I've enjoyed it, and it's a very good thing. Thank you for your defense even, which is again more enjoyable than the thesis. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarah, for a thorough examination of the candidate. And also, again, I have learned a great deal, as usual. And I would like to ask Ahmed one final question. Well, before the question, I would like to tell everybody, Ahmed He was online, the internet. I think his internet has been working for the last 3 years without stop, non-stop. He had books. Even he had a book about Philip Ross' previous wife, their room, and what she said about him, and he took all this into consideration. So actually he was beheaved with so much information that he was bedecked by them, and he had to try to summarize all this into a thesis. So it would have been, I think, an encyclopedia or something if I let him have his way. But he has read almost everything written by the novelists, both, and all other novelists, Jewish novelists, and I thought I should mention this. It is a groundbreaking thesis because this is the first time in Egypt that anybody touches upon Jewish literature, Jewish American literature, and it is groundbreaking in the fact that he sees the function of literature as an insight into the other, with the weaknesses, the drawbacks, and he almost had only to say that this was a new kind of Nazism. They are like Nazis. And he should have mentioned that, but maybe he was a little bit too non-political with that. Again, about autobiography and so on. Do you really think that an autobiography, by necessity, should color the work of any artist? I mean, like doctors, medical doctors, an orthopedic surgeon, for instance, need not have broken bones in order to be able to cure people or...
and the autobiographical element in this autobiographic fiction and their consequent self-centeredness is a fictional flaw because they are very self-centered. They are not capable of presenting us with other protagonists, whether they are Jewish or non-Jewish.
Would you say they have a vision? Any artist should have a vision. No. Would you say they have a vision as artists?
Well, as artists, I think that their vision is, again, ego-ridden. They are very ego-ridden in presenting the dilemmas of their protagonists and the Jewish people's dilemmas in the American society. So I think the fourth chapter with the title Self-Centeredness gives you the idea of how self-centered these people about the persecution of, or the pseudo persecution of the Jewish people all over the world. And Bernard Lelwood wrote The Fixer, and The Fixer is a very claustrophobic, melancholic novel that deals with Yakub. Yakub as a Jewish protagonist who lived in Russia, who was persecuted by the Tsar regime only because he was a Jew. And the novel goes over 170 pages, and it says nothing but Yakub is imprisonment by the Tsar regime. So again, this is self-centeredness. This is self-centeredness. So I think their vision is very limited.
Yes. One final thing. Maybe this is my fault, because maybe I should have asked you to mention the Jew of Malta, for instance, or Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice as an بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. محضر مناقشة السيد أحمد محمد عادل الكحكي في رسالته للحصول على رسالة على درجة الماجستير قسم اللغة الإنجليزية وأدبها فرع الأدب. اجتمعت لجنة المناقشة المشكلة لمناقشة الطالب وموضوعها احتقار النساء في أدب شاؤول بيلو وفيليب بروف. وقررت اللجنة أن الرسالة صالحة للمناقشة، وناقشت الطالب في جلسة علنية من الساعة 5 في يوم السبت الموافق 28 ديسمبر سنة 2002. وامتدت المناقشة من الساعة 5 إلى 7:15، وبعد الاطلاع على اللائحة التنفيذية والقوانين الصادرة في جمهورية مصر العربية في شأن تنظيم الجامعات، قررت لجنة المناقشة بإجماع الآراء نجاح الطالب في المناقشة، ثم قررت منحه درجة الماجستير في الآداب بتقدير ممتاز.
لا قوة إلا بالله إن شاء الله. ألف مبروك يا دكتورة إن شاء الله. ألف مبروك عقبال الدكتوراه إن شاء الله يا رب. إن شاء
الله. أنا بعتبره ابني حقيقة يعني، وأنا سعيدة فيه جدا جدا يعني. أنا بهني حضرتك على أحمد وبعتبره ابني يعني فعلا يعني زي ما ربيتي
يا رب ان شاء الله.
عندك ولد مهذب
ان شاء الله.
ربنا يبارك لكم.
دي جدة بقى
يا خبر ابيض يا خبر
ان شاء الله.
حضرتك نورتينا طبعا. دعواتك ويزيد ربيكم الحقيقة يعني أنا فخورة بيه جدا. ده هو ممتاز
يا حاجة. ربنا يفرحك فيك كده عقبال الدكتوراه.
طب وحضرتك بقى
دوروا معاك.
دوروا معاك.
تعالى يا حاج محمد.
اطلع تصوري.
أنا كويس
الله يبارك يا ماما.
اتفضلي
شوفي التعبير بتاعي
ربنا يوفقك يا رب. معلش.
الحقيقة.